Okay, so in our next part of reading the whiteboard, we're going to talk about tempo here. So tempo in these examples here, so we have a back squat at 3010 and we have a pull up at 2112. The tempo is this 4-digit number right here. The 4-digit number corresponds to phases of the movement in seconds. So this first number here is the lowering phase. The number here, the second number is at the time spent at the bottom. The third number is the time on the way up, and the fourth number is the time at the top. Now that is consistent through all movements that we use a tempo for. So that means that what that makes a difference in is when a movement starts with a lowering or starts with a raising, that those numbers are still going to go in that order. So a back squat is going to start with a lowering. So this sequence here, so at 3010, the first number is going to correspond with the first movement. For a pull-up, the first number is going to correspond with the third part, which is a little bit confusing, but this is just consistent. This allows for consistency through all trainers, all coaches throughout the world. So the first movement with the pull-up, which will be the raising phase with pulling yourself up towards the bar, will be this third number here. So again, it's a little bit confusing. There's a key on the top of the board that has this all written out, so you can always refer to that if you need to. And it's a little bit, whenever we do tempo stuff, I think that it can get a little bit annoying at first, and I think there's some, you kind of get the head shakes, wondering why we're doing this. And there are a lot of great reasons for using tempo. So some of those are, you can work on specific parts of a movement and specific weaknesses. Especially. So for this pull-up example, doing 2 seconds over with a chin over the bar is going to work on that stability and strength at the top of the movement, which is a really big challenge for a lot of people. For a back squat, doing a 3010, which is a pretty slow pace on the way down, that allows us to really work that controlled eccentric movement. Pauses at the bottom are also super effective. And just in general, whenever we slow a movement down, it allows us as coaches to really explore the deficiencies and things that need improvement in somebody's squat. So that's one benefit. Safety is another one. Just allowing us to say, give a control on where we're at for what that movement pace should be. So there's not a huge discrepancy of speed, and so people aren't just hammering out reps. It allows us to say, okay, slow on the way down, so you're not just crashing on the way down on a back squat, for example. Same with a pull-up, so you're not just slamming all the way down in that movement. And consistency is another good benefit, where if everybody's doing the same, it's A, consistency amongst people, and B, consistency amongst testing. So with a group, if we know that everybody's squatting at a 3010 tempo, that allows us to say, okay, that's what the group's doing, and there's not someone bouncing out of the bottom of a squat and somebody's going really slow in the bottom of a squat. We can then work on the same thing together. And then consistency as far as repeatability. So if we're doing a test and we say for a back squat 1 rep max at 3010, and we test that, and then we retest a back squat 8 weeks later, it's got to be at the same tempo, because otherwise there's a lot of things that can change within a movement. And although there might be more weight in the movement later, that doesn't necessarily, if you do that movement faster or slower, it's not necessarily the same test. So this allows some more consistency amongst repeatability whenever we do testing work. Lastly, or not lastly necessarily, but another great benefit of the tempo is that it allows us to have a control on how much time under tension that we have for a movement and for a set of work. So, for example, and there's different, whenever we have like a higher time under tension, we're generally working on what we call hypertrophy and developing more muscle fibers and bigger muscle fibers. And then whenever we're working on within less time under tension, it's usually more like speed within those muscle fibers or power within those muscle fibers, or making those that we've already developed faster. So usually through a cycle, without going too far down a rabbit trail here, the time under tension will start off big and get to small as we develop. We start off building more muscle fibers, and then towards the end, we try and make those muscle fibers faster and stronger. So let's take a look just to say kind of on the control within the time under tension here. So 3010, this is 4 seconds per squat right now, or 4 seconds per squat in this example. 3 seconds down, 3 seconds on the way up, times 10 is 40 seconds of work, 40 seconds of squatting work. If we were to change this number and say 4020 on the way up, so that's 6 seconds of squatting, so 60 seconds of work per set. Or if we change this to say, for example, 1010, then 20 seconds of work. So kind of again referring back to that consistency thing, three sets of 10, if we take this whole number out, 3 sets of 10 can be an entirely different thing, an entirely different response within the athlete. So, you know, if you're doing 3 sets of 10 for 20 seconds or 3 sets of 10 for 60 seconds, this is 60 seconds of work under a barbell versus 20 seconds of work under a barbell. So whenever we when we assign this tempo, it allows us to then work on exactly what we want to work on for that phase in the training cycle, and continue that as we move forward. Hopefully that answers some questions and allows you to better understand what that tempo means and why we use it.